Ladies and gentlemen, this was the most unbelievable round of chess I have ever seen. We had two all-Indian matchups in the Chennai Grand Masters round 6. Alireza Firouzja and Arjun Erigaisi were tied for the lead going into this round. But, as you can see on the screen, Nodirbek Abdusattorov was playing Alireza Firouzja. If he scores a win, he puts himself in real contention. He's only half a point behind the two leaders. And Arjun is playing a fellow Indian. He's playing Nihal Sarin, who suffered a really difficult defeat yesterday and will be looking to bounce back. So it is still all up for grabs in the penultimate round of the Chennai Grand Masters for 2026. Let's get into the game. Alireza Firouzja versus Nodirbek Abdusattorov, and then we'll go to the all-Indian matchups, ending then with the matchup between Dmitry Andreikin and Hans Niemann. We have e4 from Nodirbek, e6, so Alireza plays a French. This is not the first time he's played a French this tournament. And we get an advanced French. This is not seen so much at top level, but obviously you still have to be prepared. We have c5, c3, knight to c6, knight to f3, and bishop d7. I'm always curious to see how the grandmasters play in the French, because as many of you will know, if you're long-time followers of the channel, this is in my repertoire. We have bishop to e2, now knight g to e7, and now knight to a3. We have takes, and now the knight goes to f5, and you're just putting as much pressure on you can. You don't mind clarifying the center, because now the bishop eyes this. It probably won't take, but you've got good pressure here. You wish you probably still had a c-pawn maybe, but, it's how Alireza's chosen to play this position. He's already made Nodirbek think, who now brings his knight back to c2 to just, double, triple, extra defend this pawn. We have now bishop to e7. Short castles. Now, it is always tempting to play the move g4. And, it's been played. Like, g4 is not out of the question, because the knight has got two choices, h4 or h6. h4 always looks like problematic because you're always worried about your bishop getting trapped. It doesn't get trapped in this position, but that is always something to keep in mind. So, the move played in the game is bishop to d3, just putting pressure on the knight. We have f6. It is the other pawn break you have in the French. You have c5, which is your main one, and kind of when that's been used, you've got f6, two key pawn breaks. We have takes, bishop takes, and now rook to e1. This looks like it's hanging. It's not, even though you have three defenders. Bishop takes here is check, and the queen would win the piece right back. So for the moment, we play queen to b6, and there's not much more you can do. You can add one more defender, but you're going to be hanging this. So what does white come up with? We remove the knight. You've got no choice. You have to give up the bishop pair. Takes. Now you have split the black structure, and you've relieved a considerable amount of pressure on this. We have now bishop to g5, offering the exchange. Takes, knight takes, and now the move f4. Really good stuff here. Alireza still obviously has had some notes on this position. He's only recently begun to think. Nodirbek is down almost 20 minutes. He plays the move b4, which just looks like, you blundered a pawn, but, rook b1 with the pin is quite devastating. So you've got to be careful. We get now bishop to f5. Now a4, so he's really expanding on the queen side. But he's down nearly 40 minutes. Knight takes. Now he's not worried about rook b1. You might say, wait, hang on. What about rook b1 now? Well, now there's bishop takes, which is just, the cleanest fork ever. And even if you have, rook takes, I take the queen, you take the queen, I take back the rook, you take back the bishop. You're down in exchange. If you go down this line, which might not even be the best move. So we have here queen d6. Obviously, you can take this knight. I don't get why this knight's not being taken. Because let's say you take the queen. Now I take the queen back. And you take back. I play a6. And material's equal. So there's a way you can just, take the knight. But, so a5 is played. The queen moves out the way. Now I can take, and now I can put my knight on a very nice square. And you've got choices to make. We remove the knight, get the rook in, and now rook ae8. We have rook e5, but this capture comes in. And it's a really imbalanced pawn structure, but probably this is going to end in a draw. Because I imagine all three of these will liquidate. This 2-on-1 could become menacing for Alireza. But now the time situation is balanced. The engine always thinks Alireza, if he's going to win this game, is the one. Queen e4, now queen to b3. The problem is it's just really difficult to defend everything. Everything is really difficult. We take this, now rook to d1. Everything just seems to be hanging at the same time. You've got to make sure you don't hang a mate. So queen, rook f7. Now queen to b5. You might say, wait, hang on. Why don't you take this? Well, you hang back rank. And you probably do not want to trade queens here. I don't think this would be beneficial for white in the slightest. So you've got to be really careful. So that's why queen b5. Now g6. And now we take because mate is defended by the virtue of queen to f1. So check, queen to f1. The queens come off. This is probably Alireza's best chance to push for a win. He now is going to disrupt the white pawn structure. And he's got every chance of trying to win this. He's up a pawn. He's got a 2-on-1 here that he can try and push. But it's so difficult. We have a4 from h4, sorry. He even offers a rook trade. Now, if you're Nodirbek, you can't trade rooks. So you have to give this check. And he brings the king. You might say, wait, hang on. Why doesn't he try and give this check and win this pawn? I don't know. He obviously saw something he didn't like. King g2, a6. Now he brings the king up. We have this covering. And now it just looks like Nodirbek has solved all his problems. He now has to defend against this pawn. This is the only threat. But we've now reached a situation where table base is going to get involved. And it thinks this is a draw. And, move 40, f3. It really thinks this is a draw because you can run. But a4 is played, and on move 41, the players agree to a draw because you just can't promote this pawn. Nodirbek is not going to, go wandering and allow you to promote. And so both players are held. Nodirbek will need something quite special in the final round to catch Firouzja. He'll need Firouzja to lose or him to win with Firouzja drawing to catch him. We now move then to the other match for the lead. Arjun Erigaisi versus Nihal Sarin. Arjun with the white pieces going to try and push Nihal. If he scores a win, he takes the outright lead. We have a semi-Slav defense. Or a Slav defense. We have a very interesting line here. I say interesting. The players have already thought by this point a little bit. So mildly concerning. Maybe they're just recalling all the intricacies. But this is the big point here, e4. White has achieved this e4 break. They're threatening a fork, so you kind of have to take. That's going to allow the, opening of the position. We take this way. And now, wait, what? We take and allow a fork? Well, while this is a fork, my capture here hit your bishop. So Arjun allows his bishop to be taken so he can get the dark squared bishop back. But, knight b6, and Arjun Erigaisi is better. He's thought this through completely correctly. He's better. Because even though there's like bishop f4, I come in here, takes, queen takes, rook gets in, look at that, being supported. You haven't won this back yet, but it's going to be really difficult long term for white to defend it. The bishop drops back to h2, knight to e8. Arjun's advantage is gone. With, a lot of, only 18 moves made. Both players are down to 30 odd minutes. And I think Nihal's just got a better position. We get this rook trade, but now we win the pawn back. And probably, once this bishop comes out, Nihal's just got a slightly better position, in my opinion. The engine, 0-0-0. But I think this is a weakness, so you might want to sacrifice it at some point. Or just push it forward and, win it back, sacrifice it, or trade it off. We've got bishop versus knight, the eternal question that will never be answered in chess. Otherwise, everything's very symmetrical. We give this check, and Arjun goes for a queenless middle game because he thinks he can get this. Where he brings the rook in, the king comes in, check, and he thinks his rook is just kind of keeping Nihal pinned. Even though he sacrificed the pawn. But he has sacrificed the pawn, and he hasn't got it back yet. He gives a check. He still hasn't got it back, and now Nihal Sarin is creating counterplay. He can get it back now, Arjun, but we get the king forward, and yeah, this pawn will be captured eventually, and so we've got this 4 on the 3 with a weird structure. Bishop versus knight, everything's quite close, so the knight does a really decent job. So it should be a draw, but we're in time pressure now. Only a couple minutes left on the clock. You do not want to blunder a knight fork. A horse on the board is the most dangerous thing in time trouble. And now Nihal Sarin must choose. Bishop to d7 or bishop to f5. He goes the wrong way, gives a check, slightly inaccurate, doesn't matter. He continues hunting the king, he brings the bishop back. He now takes the pawn, offers a rook trade, and Arjun takes the rook. And he's just blundered. Now this game, practically speaking, is probably still a draw. The engine is screaming that Nihal Sarin is winning. Nihal Sarin is winning. He brings the king. Now, f4 is the wrong way to go about this. We have f6, check, king comes forward, takes. Look at how we capture. We capture symmetrically. We don't take like this to allow, still ideas of trying to create passed pawns. No, we take like this. The knight comes back, it doesn't matter. h5. Where are you going? That's the wrong move. Bishop d7. I'm wrapping around. Look at this. Anchoring everything on light squares. I'm going to push this pawn through. Look, it is half decent for white because these are on dark squares, so the bishop struggles, and you might be able to still anchor. There are still ways you can try and hold this. You've put everything that's important in your life on dark squares. The problem is, at some point, you're going to run out of moves. King here. At some point, you are going to run out of moves, and you have. The black king got in, and is going to push through its pawn, and bishop g4, the knight is now stuck. It cannot come forwards. It will be captured, and this pawn will be pushed through. Nihal Sarin defeats Arjun Erigaisi, which means Alireza Firouzja leads by himself a half point ahead of Nodirbek Abdusattorov, and now, a half point ahead of Abdusattorov and Erigaisi. The other storyline in this tournament has been about the World Champion Gukesh. Rock bottom of the standings. He's lost 2 games. He now busts out a Caracan defense, which is something he has been looking at. Pranesh M has probably done alright. I think many had him as the not-so-favorite. This is a weird variation of the advanced variation of the Caracan. I've never seen it played like this. Apparently Pranesh has. He's still in theory. Gukesh, the first to blink in terms of thinking. He spent a couple of minutes. And now here he's already got to be precise. And you've probably got yourself into a slightly dubious position when on move 9, you have to be precise. How do you play this position? Do you play the move a5 or do you play c5? c5 is a very typical move in these types of structures, but it's a pawn sacrifice. Gukesh plays c5. Knight takes, pawn takes. Now he gets the knight in because he thinks, well, I'm going to just be winning stuff back. But I play c3. Knight takes here, check. It's slightly inaccurate, but check. Knight jumps back. Now bishop b5. He's just putting pressure. Queen d7. 1 castles is good, 1 castles is bad. Pranesh, of course, chooses the wrong castles. But it makes sense. You've got rook here. You are being laser beamed by this light squared bishop, though, which is mildly problematic. So Gukesh has got some compensation. We now get a6. You can move the knight because you're not actually threatening to take the bishop. Your rook is hanging. So the knight looks to come in, potentially just, going this way or rerouting to put pressure. Gukesh castles. Now, this is a threat of being taken because the king will be able to step up. So, Gukesh is, more than adequate compensation for this position, but white is causing him problems. We now get bishop e2. Now look at this, e5. This is a pin, but the bishop won't be defended. So, we play a move like b4, and we begin to attack. Same side attacking chess. d4, takes. Gukesh must be accurate once again. Knight to f4. Knight to f4 is wrong. King b2 is best. Get away from this diagonal, get off of this line, and kind of just get out of a lot of things. This knight's actually fine for the moment. Your bishop's not hanging because I take the queen. Queen now slides over. We now sacrifice the bishop in this line after the king slides over. This bishop can now be taken, but you've got impossible threats here. The knight's hanging if you take, so that's the whole idea. Knight f4 is wrong because the queen now slides over, so now there is no bishop sacrifice because when you take, the knight's no longer hanging. So we have to drop the bishop back to d2 and now takes because we've removed the guard of this pawn and now your king is being laser beamed. So king slides over, the knight goes back, which is probably not necessary. The bishop now comes out, we offer a trade. We finally remove that bishop that has been bothering us the whole game. And Gukesh is better. He's better. Pranesh makes another inaccuracy. But Gukesh, what's he doing? He plays rook d5. which looks natural, right? Because you're defending the bishop as opposed to dropping the bishop back. But dropping the bishop back is the better move. He goes here. Now the queen comes in. Now what are you doing? You're having to tie your pieces together. All that momentum he had is just gone. Now the bishop hits the queen. We give a check. King slides over. Now we slide over, but still everything is precarious. Rook comes in. And again, now you've got to be precise. Do not chase the queen. Bring the rook back and help the rest of your guys out, because he's just chilling here and he's a loose piece, and loose pieces drop off. Loose pieces drop off. b5 chases the queen. Queen b3, and now you have problems because this is hit. This is hit. The rook comes in, will attack the king. This is still at some point weak in the future. Too many problems. b4. Now the queen comes back, which wasn't accurate. You can actually sacrifice the rook here. Don't shout it too loud because takes, and there's a tremendous amount of pressure just happening in this position. So queen c4 probably not necessary. King slides off. King slides this way. It would have been better to go king b7. Both guys should have moved their kings kind of off the c-file. Gukesh does, but the wrong way. So king d8 is the wrong way. Now the knight comes in. Queen f5. Check. Here. And you've got to be precise. We attack the queen. The bishop can be taken, but you would lose the rook. So we don't want to do that. So we still defend the rook, but now rook he1. White is swarming. Gukesh was better. He's even up 2 pawns. He's up 2 pawns. Can you tell in this position that he's up material? He gives up the bishop to get the rook. So now material balance is kind of restored. It's a bishop and 2 pawns for a rook. But, Gukesh is just getting swarmed. And after king b1, he resigns on move 39. Because the game is just over. And he suffers yet another defeat. The only game left, Dmitry Andreikin versus Hans Niemann. I'm going to go through this because it's not really relevant to the standings. Andreikin's done alright. He has come in and he's made 5 draws. This was a closed Spanish. We had d3, we had d6, so not a marshal from Andreikin. We have c3, short castles, rook to e1, b5. This is all theory. I don't know why Hans has thought at this point. Maybe he was just recalling which particular line he wanted to play. You don't normally get this clarification that quickly. But the bishop comes out, queen e2, a4, now b4, playing on the queen side a bit. Now the bishop moving this way, so you're beginning to target things, this capture, and things like that nature. But we just play rook ab8, rook b1. Now the knight comes back, a lot of maneuvering. There's still a couple of games in the database. By couple, I mean 2. Andreikin has now really thought. Hans spent a couple minutes, but he's moved quickly ever since. Andreikin's now down 7 minutes on the clock, but they're on move 16 of a Spanish. We have takes, and now the knight comes into b3, potentially looking to go this way and cause problems. We have c6, now h3. Don't want this pin or knight to g4 to become a problem. But by the way, look at Hans Niemann's time spent in the last couple of moves. He went from an hour 27 to 50 minutes. So he spent, 37 minutes there. He then, gains time here. He then spends another 11 minutes on h3. And then he spends another couple of minutes. After that, he kind of moves a bit quickly. And Andreikin's now up on time. It was really crazy. Hans here spends another 15 minutes or so moving queen to c2. So he's down a lot on time in this classical game. And, it's a balanced position. It's really complicated. The plans are not quite simple. What pieces do you trade? What do you keep? How do you open the position? Black would probably love to achieve c5. But is that what they really want? Do they just want to keep the position closed? It's not an easy position because you can kind of just shuffle and shuffle and shuffle. And it's not clear at all. So Hans Niemann spending a lot of time is not uncommon. We have queen c8. Now rook ed1. Now the bishop targets the knight. We bring the rook to d2. And now look at this. Sacrifice. Andreikin makes a concrete decision. He's tired of maneuvering. He sacrifices the bishop, gets the queen in. We go back, but check. The knight sacrifices itself. Look at this. But kind of now the floodgates opening. We get in here. And now it's just about, can Hans Niemann defend himself? And he's doing an admirable job. Black is always slightly better here according to the engine. But this attack will either break through, or Hans Niemann is a knight up for 3 pawns. So it depends how this game transforms. like crazy tactics here. Like just rewind. So we sacrifice the bishop. We then kind of trade here to kind of open things up. The king was, well defended. You probably could have given a check, but the king would have run centrally. And now what we do is after this, we drop the bishop back, offering the trade of rooks. Queen slides out the way. We're still harassing the king, but knights are great defenders of the king, just covering all of the infiltration. We have this rook trade. Now we offer a queen trade, no queen trade, but now we bring the rook in. This rook does not want to trade itself, so really complex. Now queen d3. This isn't a back rank mate, but potentially looking to just kind of get in and cause problems. Now queen to h5. Now queen to e2, queen to h4, and the players repeated moves and made a draw. Kind of when the game is getting interesting, but what can you do? Yeah, and that's kind of how everything stands, ladies and gentlemen, after 6 rounds. The standings are as follows. I don't know if you'll be able to see the full standings. Let me just see. Yeah, okay, well, you can see the points. You can't see the player's name. So it is Alireza Firouzja, who is in first place with 4 points. It is then Nodirbek Abdusattorov and Arjun Erigaisi, each with 3.5. Then there's a 3-way tie for third, effectively, or, fourth to sixth, which is Andreikin, Nihal Sarin, and Pranesh, all on even scores. Nihal Sarin and Pranesh both losing and winning a game. Dmitry Andreikin has made 6 draws. I'm pretty sure he's content to make a draw tomorrow. And he is playing tomorrow Nodirbek Abdusattorov with the white pieces. Gukesh Dommaraju, the world champion, is lingering down in last place. And it is a big problem because if he loses tomorrow, a third game in a row against Hans Niemann, who will be very motivated, he may not be 2,700 anymore. That's how crazy it's gotten to. Gukesh is 27-17, I believe, at the start of this tournament. He's down 14 rating points. So he really needs something tomorrow against Hans. Any result other than a loss will be beneficial for him in terms of rating. It's back-to-back losses. He loses to Erigaisi. He loses to Pranesh. He did draw Nihal Sarin, so he went half out of 3 against the Indian players. But tomorrow we have a very interesting clash. Alireza Firouzja takes on Arjun Erigaisi in the final round. A draw, and then he waits to see what Nodirbek does against Andreikin. Alireza wins tomorrow with the white pieces against Erigaisi. He wins the tournament, and what a performance it will be. So Nodirbek and Erigaisi need victories tomorrow to try and, hope for the best, because a win for Nodirbek kind of gets him close to, because you can't hope Firouzja loses, because that means Erigaisi picks up a full point. So Nodirbek would need to win. He's hoping for them to draw and for him to pick up a victory, and that would get him a tiebreak match with Firouzja. But it's all very interesting. Andreikin could go 7 out of 7 in terms of draws, which is all right. I mean, he's up 1 rating point. 1 rating point. He's made 6 draws. So what can you do? But decent performance from him. Nihal Sarin, Pranesh in 5th and 6th. Hans Niemann on -1, so he would love to pick up a victory, get him to even score tomorrow, and pick up a victory against the world champion. But that is how everything stands after 6 rounds at the Chennai Grand Masters 2026.